Hi everybody, I'm Louisa Reid, the author of Gloves Off. I'm going to talk to you today about some of my lockdown reads, things I've been reading or have read that I think you'll enjoy if you're looking for something a bit different, something new, something to look forward to. So I'm going to start off by talking about this novel, The Call. I know it's been out for some time, but I hadn't got around to reading it yet because I think I'm not usually drawn naturally to fantasy stories, but this book, once I got into it, well, I was into it straight away. The first chapters, absolutely gripping. It was one of those that I couldn't put down. So it tells the story of Nessa, who is living in a world where teenagers must fear the call, and the call drags these young people into fairyland for 3 minutes 4 seconds. That's all the time that they have to survive. Well, in real life, 3 minutes 4 seconds, but for them, when they're in fairyland, it's an awful lot longer than that. And the young people all go to survival colleges so that they can train themselves up to be ready for when the call comes. However, Nessa isn't necessarily somebody who we think, well, it's going to be easy for her to survive the call. So few people do, but she has difficulty with walking, with running. All of those things mean that she's a lot slower than perhaps some of the others are. Nevertheless, she finds ways around it. She's determined, she's feisty, and she is going to give it all she's got. So in this story of survival and danger and adventure, you will be absolutely engrossed. It's so worth a read if you haven't already come across this one. And it couldn't be further from our own existence within our four walls at the moment, as you go on this terrible missions plural to fairyland with these teenagers and are chased by the demonic she, the banshee, the fairies in this dark world. So it's one to really have a read of, whether you like fantasy or not. I'm sure you will really enjoy it. So that's my first recommendation. My next recommendation is very different, set in the present day, Run Rebel by Manjeet Man, a verse novel, a form which I absolutely love. A verse novel about a girl whose life is tough, and she wants to run. She wants to be a runner. She's a really talented runner. She's been chosen by her teacher as somebody with massive potential, but unfortunately her parents, her father, doesn't support her in this ambition. He's a real patriarch. He's somebody who limits young women rather than enables them to find themselves and be all that they can be. Amber, the heroine, her older sister, has already found her life curtailed at a young age, being encouraged to marry, or rather, I think really forced to marry somebody who she didn't necessarily wish to marry. It's an interesting relationship, the one between the sisters, but it's especially interesting the relationship between Amber and her mum and Amber and her dad. Her dad is a character who's very difficult to empathise with, but I did find much in that portrayal that was very honest, very real, and the mum also in her battle for freedom, for emancipation from the ways in which she has found it so hard to come to terms with her existence in the UK. So again, beautifully written book that is written in verse and absolutely immerses you. I read this over the course of a couple of hours on a sunny day and couldn't tear my eyes away. It carries you along, and there's so much here to think about and reflect on after you've read it. So, Run Rebel by Manjeet Man. The next recommendation is different in tone, Tulip Tailor by Anna Mannering, because it's a comic story, a humorous story, brilliantly witty and entertaining, but at the same time sharing in common with both the books that I've talked about a really tough, feisty heroine who's going to do all she can to prove herself to a world where people continually, well, perhaps not continually, but often underestimate her and who she is, because Tulip's a makeup blogger, and when she's given the challenge to appear on a survival reality show, people think she won't be able to manage because she's not tough enough. Anyway, she takes up the challenge, and she goes off to the wilds of Scotland, and that truly is anathema to her. And that gives you a hint of one of the things that Tulip enjoys, which is words and language. At the start of every chapter, there is a wonderful word which, of course, relates to the contents of that chapter. This one says contraband, which is a marvellous word. So it's a YA story, but with so much there about feminism, and also about how brave and empowered young women are. And so that often, if you're into makeup or clothes, whatever, I think that there's a sense, well, how can you be an intelligent and clever and ambitious young person at the same time? Well, we should be well over that stereotype and cliche by now, but just in case we're not, Tulip's here to remind us that you shouldn't take young women at face value. Anna's second novel, Rebel with a Cupcake, is also out now from Firefly, and that too is absolutely brilliant. So I recommend both stories. The part of this book that really stays with me is Tulip's experiences in the wild when she's doing the survivalist course. It's a little bit like that TV show SAS, which I can't imagine anything worse than putting myself in the position that those people do, with those hideous challenges that they have to face, the guts that's required. Well, Tulip's absolutely the kind of character who can stand up for herself in those situations, although maybe she doesn't necessarily think she is at the start. The next story, back to a verse novel. This one is coming out in July. It's Blood Moon by Lucy Reid, and Blood Moon is a fantastic verse novel, all about something which is not written about so often in young adult novels, although, come to think of it, why on earth isn't it? And it absolutely should be, which is periods and period shaming. So this beautifully written verse novel tells us the story of Frankie, who has her first sexual experience with the love interest of the story, Benjamin, who's really rather gorgeous and has enviable thighs. And Frankie and Benjamin, somehow the details of their experience are exposed on social media and are all over the internet. And this verse novel tells us how Frankie copes and deals with that. I mean, I can't think of anything more appalling. And the novel doesn't pull any punches in showing just how utterly nightmarish that experience must be. But at the same time, it's also written in this wonderful, wonderful verse. And when I was on the train going from Manchester to Birmingham, a train heaving with people on the way to the Cheltenham Festival, I wasn't going there, they were. This story just made that journey fly by for me, thank God, because it could have been really rather unpleasant otherwise, with all the people having their lager, cans of lager at 8 a.m. or whatever it was. So now my final recommendation is this wonderful story from Beverly Birch called Song Beneath the Tides, also published by the incredible Guppy books. And this is just the most beautifully written novel about Ali, who goes on holiday to East Africa. And it's about what happens when she gets there. And once again, it's so immersive. All of the stories that I've mentioned today, the novels are just pull you in and don't let you go. What I love about Beverly's writing is the attention to detail and feeling myself transported to this world that I don't know, but would now absolutely love to go to. Just the sights, the sounds, the atmosphere. Here's a little bit from chapter 6. Purple lizards, watch them from a fallen tree, the island full of sound, trills and warbles and hums and clicks. Clouds of yellow birds floated among the palms. It's so glorious. The sun was hot, the air fragrant. On one hand, we've got this most incredible atmosphere and landscape, perfect to escape into. And then on the other hand, we also have the danger and the peril. The title tells you that there's something hidden, something beneath what is going on in the present, and it's the stories of the past which interweave with those of the here and now and add depth to the story that's being told, a huge amount of depth. I felt so powerfully and strongly about the themes of this book: the colonialism, tourism, adventuring, the trading, the difficulties that this poses for people in their own lands when outsiders come and think that they can take and destroy without any regard for those who already live in those environments. So I absolutely love this story. Its heroine, Ali, is another feisty, strong person, and her love story is also really beautiful. So those are 5 books that I really recommend, and they will transport you to other places, other experiences, take you, immerse you in worlds that perhaps you haven't been to before, and I don't think you'll want to put any one of those books down once you start reading. Hopefully that gives you a few ideas if you are stuck for any, and that's all from me. Bye!